everyone, it's Mr.FalconPunch 996, the underrated king, the recommendation master, and of course, YouTube's #1 Dorohedoro fanboy, back to bring you guys another new video. And today's video is going to be the first part of my 400 sub Q&A special. Now this video was supposed to come out last week, so it is pretty late and I do apologize for that, but you know what they say, better late than never. And before I officially begin the Q&A special, just let me say, thank you. Thank you to all my subscribers, and especially the people who ask the questions. It really means a lot to me, and thanks to you guys, I can continue making videos and recommending underrated anime manga series. But now, let's officially begin. Alright, to start off this Q&A, we got questions from King of Kilps, and his first question is, who would win in a cook-off, RoboCop or Nikaido? Now, I've only seen the original RoboCop movie, and he didn't really cook, whereas Nikaido in the start of Dorohedoro is already cooking, so I guess Nikaido wins by default. Moving on to question number 2. Would you ever want to do co-editing with Kilpso Brando? And the answer to that question is yes! And finally, we have the last question from Kilps, which is, if you had a time machine to go back in time and slap someone, who would it be and why? Now this is a pretty hard question for me since I'm not really a violent person, but if I were to slap someone, it would probably be the bullies from middle school, since those guys were just complete jerks, and I don't even know why they bullied me, but they just did it anyways. But I'd probably Falcon Punch them rather than slap them because, that's what I do. And our next batch of questions come from Bob Evans, and his first question is, what is the best anime you've seen? Now this is a pretty hard question because there's a lot of anime I've seen, and a lot of them could qualify as the best I've seen. So I'm just going to cheat a little here and talk about the best anime I've seen so far this year, which would be none other than Ping Pong the Animation, which was just a great anime from the spring 2014 season. And if you want to know why I like this anime so much, go check out my recommendation for it. Moving on to Bob Evans' second question, what YouTubers do you enjoy watching? I mean, there are tons of people I enjoy watching. I mean, pretty much anyone I'm subscribed to, I enjoy watching their videos. And the final question from Bob Evans is, how much manga do you own? So far as of now, I have a shelf completely filled with manga. I mean, it's just crammed in there. I mean, I got a couple Viz-Big volumes up there, but this shelf is just filled with manga. So that's about how much manga I currently own, a shelf full. Now it's time to move on to the questions I got from the anime hero. And his first question is, if you could spend a day with General Vamp, who, if you guys don't know, is the greatest anime villain of all time, what would you do? Well, we'd take over. Or, at least try to attempt it, and then we'd have a cooking segment together. Hero's second question is, what moment made Joseph Joestar your favorite JoJo? Now, right from the beginning, I really liked Joseph. I mean, the whole scene with the policeman and the Coca-Cola bottle was extremely awesome. But the moment that really made me like Joseph was the Tommy gun scene, because that scene is just extremely awesome. It's badass, it's manly, it's over the top, and it's sort of just random because Joseph just gets the gun out nowhere. Hero's final question is, what's more epic, Cobra's cigar or his psycho gun? Now this is a very, very tough question, because this is a choice between a badass gun arm that runs on psychic energy and the epic manly cigars that are so badass they could be used as a flashlight or even be used to breathe underwater. Now both are pretty epic in their own right, and they're both very iconic to the character design of Cobra. However, I just slightly like the Psycho Gun a lot more because overall it's just a lot cooler. I mean, the name is badass and it's a gun arm that runs on psychic energy. I mean, how could you not like that? I mean, it's so awesome since we got one of his own. And with that, we move on to our next batch of questions, which come from DataRune. And his first question is, what do you think about today's anime? Now, I actually do plan on making a video about this topic somewhere in the future, so I'm not going to go full on detail with my response to this question, but as of now, with today's anime industry, I do think it's okay. It's a lot better than it was a couple years ago, where almost everything that was being pumped out was practically moe slice of life garbage, though I do think as of now, it still can get a bit better. Moving on to the next question from DataRune, what is the oldest anime you've watched? Now, the oldest anime I've watched would probably have been the original Astro Boy series, which came out around the early 60s. However, the oldest anime I've ever completed would have probably been the original Cutie Honey anime, which was around the 70s. And the last question from DataRune is, what is the oldest manga you've read? The oldest manga I've read would have probably been another Go Nagai series, being Mount Dante, which also came out around the early 70s. And the last person to be asking Q&As for the first part of the Q&A is KingSan, and his first question is, what anime do you want to see remade and why? Now there are tons of series I want to see get remade, however recently I have really wanted a Fist of the North Star remake. Why? Because everyone needs to experience the sheer manliness that is Fist of the North Star, and I think tons of people would love it if it got remake. I mean, with today's animation, Fist of the North Star would look amazing, and the action will instantly get every shonen fan coming to it. Other series I think really need remakes would probably be Battle Angel Alita and Gunsmith Cats, because these two series have amazing characters, badass action scenes, and have pretty strong female leads, which are things that I think the anime industry needs a lot more of nowadays. The next question from KingSan is, what is the first video you've ever made? Now the first video I ever made on this channel will probably be my anime community introduction video, which was just plain terrible, and I don't really recommend anyone to check it out. I just leave it up on my channel just so I could go back and check it on it every now and then to see how I've improved over the years. But overall, the video was just terrible. I mean, at the time, I was really nervous around the camera, and I was trying my best to keep my voice low since I was trying to keep my channel a secret from my family. On top of all this, I had a terrible video editor and editing skills to match. And worst of all, I had no sunglasses. I know, it's just terrible. And the final question from KingSan, as well as the final question for the first part of the Q&A, is, do you have any tips for someone who's trying to get started in reviewing anime? Now, I'm pretty much a beginner in reviewing anime myself, so take my advice with a grain of salt. However, I could probably give 3 good tips for anyone who's interested in reviewing, and one would probably be passion, because passion, in my opinion, is pretty important for reviewing and just making videos on YouTube in general. Because if you lack passion, your videos won't be as good as you want them to be. I mean, if a person who's reviewing an anime just doesn't really seem that into it, then the video itself is kind of going to be boring, which will lead to people having no interest in you. Tip number 2 is know what you're talking about. Now I know this sounds like a no-brainer, but you'll be surprised as to how many people I've come across on YouTube who just review things with little to no knowledge about what they're talking about. I mean, I know it requires a little work, but if you want to review something, you need to do a bit of research here and there. And lastly, tip number 3, which in my opinion is almost as important as passion, is develop your own style. By developing your own style, your reviews will become more unique, as well as help you put a bit of personality into what you're doing. Anyways, we are done with part 1 of my Q&A special. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I do apologize once again for it being a little late. Part 2 should be out sometime next week, and hopefully that one will be on time. But as always, I am Mr.FalconPunch 996. Like, comment, subscribe, and if you haven't done any of that yet, you will be Falcon Punch in the face, so you better do it, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.